Central Palo Alto Firewall Management with Panorama. Okay everyone, in this video we're going to be exploring Panorama. In Panorama, it's Palo Alto's central firewall management platform. You have a bunch of firewalls across your entire site or across your entire organization, meaning you have site A, site B, site C. You have an office in New York, an office in Japan, an office anywhere in the world. And you want to have consistency across all your firewalls, meaning that every single policy needs to be replicated across your entire organization. So every site needs to have the same policy and rules in place to be compliant with your security standards. So this is where Panorama comes into play. So Panorama, you basically add all those firewalls, all those devices onto the Panorama appliance or VM, and you can push policies across the board by just setting up one single policy, and then you classify all those devices into a group and then apply the policy to every single device onto the group. So you're applying the policy into the device group, and any member of that group will get the configuration. So the Panorama will basically manage your whole Palo Alto infrastructure from a single pane of glass. So you create a single address object, and if you want to have that address object replicated into all the devices inside a particular device group, and we're going to discuss device group during this presentation, they're all going to get the config. So instead of going to every single individual Palo Alto making change, by just applying it through Panorama, Panorama will take care of configuration committing across all your Palo Altos. Also, like we mentioned, we want to make sure that the policies are consistent. We want to have the same rules across all your firewall environments, so you want to make sure that the firewalls are compliant with your security best practice in your organization. We can also trigger updates. So if we want to have all firewalls updated via Panorama, so we want to make sure that all firewalls are up to date on the same code, we can do it through Panorama. So it will be a global upgrade across your entire organization. And finally, but it's very useful to have a central monitoring all your Palo Alto firewalls, because imagine if you work with a security operations center and you're managing multiple Palo Alto instances, you're not going to have a particular session to every single firewall in order for you to see the monitoring and monitor traffic activity. You want to make sure that you have everything on one single pane of glass, and this is a great tool, or I would say this is a must tool. If you have a Palo Alto environment where it's composed of a lot of Palo Altos, you definitely need to have a central management platform. And Panorama basically gives that usability, making sure that your environment is consistent. Also, with Panorama, you can have a central policy table. So you have all your policies across Site A, Site B, Site D, the same. So you know that any user that goes to any site on your organization, they're going to be enforced with the same policies across the board. We're not changing anything. Also, if you want to make sure that all your sites are mirrored from one particular master unit, or in this case, you have a Palo Alto, usually it's on the headquarters. So on your headquarters, that headquarter will be your master device. Every site will have a copy, or it will basically mirror the configurations from the master. And you can select this on Panorama. You can basically say, okay, so I have the headquarters Palo Alto firewall. I want to make sure that all my sites are the same, and this is where you select that master device, and then anything that's configured on that master device can be replicated to the other ones. Okay, let's take a look at our scenario. It's very straightforward. You have here a central Panorama server or a central Panorama appliance, and it's running on the cloud, and you can select any cloud provider, AWS, Azure, etc. We have our main site, and this is this circle in yellow, which is in USA. We have an office in New York. We have 2 firewalls in this New York office. We also have a San Jose location, which is our headquarters. So we have a master firewall, and we were talking about that master device that is going to be mirror across all the other units. So we also have an Italy location, and we have 2 offices, and it's on Milan. So in Milan, we have Office 1, and we also have another office in Milan, Office 2. So we have 1 firewall in Office 1, 1 firewall in Office 2. Same with New York, 1 firewall Office 1, 1 firewall Office 2. And finally, on the United Emirates, we have our Dubai location, and we have 2 offices in Dubai with 1 firewall on each office. And we want to make sure that if we make a change here, we have the same consistency across all the other Palo Altos. You don't want to log into every single Palo Alto and make a simple config change, right? So you want to make sure that by just committing it on a central appliance, you can have consistency across the board. So if you make an address object, it's going to have the same address object everywhere on your organization. So all the Palo Altos will have the same address object configured. This is why it's very powerful. You definitely need to have this type of solution if you have an environment like this. You're not going to be logging into every single firewall if you just make an address object and you're going to make a policy that is basically going to be the same across the board. There's going to be a lot of work involved, and you might be forgetting about configuring something in a specific location. So this is where Panorama comes into place. You can have everything consistent from site A all the way to site C. And this is what we're going to see. We're going to see device group. And you can see here, I basically classified a country as a device group, and inside the country, I have two cities. I have the New York City and San Jose. Those can also be considered device groups. So I can have the New York device group, meaning that I want to have a policy applied to the USA. So I want to make a change in the USA, but only is going to be in the New York. So I don't want to apply a change to the USA and then it hits the San Jose headquarters. You want to limit also the surface of where your changes are applied. And this is where device groups come into play. Let's take a look at Panorama and let's configure those device group and let's do some exploring and we'll go from there. Okay, so once logged in onto the Panorama unit, and in this case I am running a virtual Panorama box. Just FYI, I'm not running a license unit, meaning that I cannot add devices. In this demonstration, I'm going to show you how to do those device groups, and it's a matter of adding every single Palo Alto onto the specific ones. So let's go ahead and click on Panorama. So you can see here, this is the dashboard. It's pretty much the same as the Palo Alto itself. Only difference is it's going to involve configuring device groups, and then you should have the option to add policies and objects and such. So let's go ahead and once we're inside the Panorama tab, you're going to be presented with basically the same thing as the firewalls themselves. The only difference is you're going to see some sections that you're not going to see in the Palo Alto, which in this case is everything that is managed. It relates to the group of devices that you're going to be managing on your organization. So the first thing you got to do in Panorama is to add devices. So under the Manage Devices section, this is where you're going to be presented with the option to add individual firewalls. And the way that you do it is by adding a serial number. So if you want to know where that firewall serial number is, in this case, I have one that is licensed. So there's the serial number. So you go onto the dashboard, you log into a particular unit, and grab the serial number out of the dashboard. That's a very easy way to get your serial number out of the general information widget. We can grab the serial number and then you just copy it. Let's go ahead and copy it real quick and click here. You go and paste. And once you would press OK, we should have the device added. As long as the unit is able to talk outside and it can reach those firewalls, we should be good to go. But like I said, I am not going to be able because I am not licensed. So it's going to tell me that I am not able to add the unit. But that will not stop us from showing this demonstration. Let's go ahead and create those device groups like we mentioned before. So let's go ahead and click Add. We're going to start by creating the USA. So we're going to make the country device groups. Inside the country, we're going to add city device groups. And then finally, the office itself. So let's go ahead and create the first one, which is going to be USA. And then you can add specific filters based on what you're looking for. In our case, we're just going to make the device group and we'll press OK. And by the way, all the Panorama will have a share parent group. So the share parent group is like the root group. So if you apply something to the share, it actually applies to everything below it. And you're going to see this in a bit. Also, master device. This is where we select that firewall that's going to become the master device that every single site will replicate, will mirror the configuration. So it will take a look at what the master has, and then it's just going to replicate based on the settings that the master device has. So let me go ahead and configure my country below the share group. So the parent device of this country will be share. So everything inside share applies to everything. We'll press OK. And now you can see that we have share, and inside share we got USA. And then let's go ahead and configure those two other countries. Press OK here. And you can see I did not choose share. And now we actually fall inside the USA group. We don't want that. We want to make sure that this is a country. It's not actually under the USA. So let's click back. Let's change this to share. Press OK. And now we should have the right structure. Let's go ahead and add the final one, which is United Emirates. We'll press OK. And again, make sure that it's under share, because that's the global group. And boom, we have our 3 countries under device groups. Now we need to add the individual cities on each country. So let's go ahead and select USA, and we're going to click Add. I'm going to say San Jose, and we'll press OK. So now we have San Jose under USA. Same with New York. We got to add New York now. And then we want to make sure that it's under USA, not under San Jose. So let me select USA. And now New York and San Jose falls under USA. Let's do the same thing with Italy and United Arab Emirates. Let's click Italy, and we mentioned that we have Milan, and we'll press OK. Now we have Milan. Finally, the Arab Emirates, and we're gonna create the Dubai group. And there you go. Now we have countries and cities under the share. So if I apply something under share, it actually applies to everything that is below that. You gotta make sure that you know where you're applying the configurations to. Okay, so finally, we have 2 sites in Milan, so we want to make sure that we can apply individually or as a group. So we need to create another device group and only add that particular office. So we're going to say Milan Office 1, and then it falls under Milan. So now we got Office 1, and let's add Milan Office 2. Okay, we'll press OK. Now we got the 2 offices. And now we can basically select either, if New York, we have 2 offices in New York, we can do the same thing here. Let me go ahead and create those offices. Now we got Office 1 and we got Office 2. And then make sure that it falls under New York. And now we got the offices in New York. San Jose, because it's a single file, it's a single office, we don't need to make it an office here. Dubai, we also have 2 offices in Dubai, so let's make sure we add both offices. And then we're going to say, and then we can also select the last one, which is going to be Office 2. Okay, and now we got both offices on Dubai, we got both offices on Milan, and we got both offices in New York, which belongs to the USA New York, and we got Office 1 and Office 2, and we got the headquarters. We also have Dubai, which belongs to the United Emirates, and finally Milan, which belongs to Italy, and the 2 offices. So the purpose of this is to have each firewall belonging to each site added to this device group. So once we add those devices here, we can then go into device group and add them, associate them to the specific device, so to the specific device group. So once we do that, we can apply policies globally, or we can apply policies per site. And this is why it's very powerful to make sure that we have this structure like this. And then finally, in San Jose, if we had a device, we can add San Jose as the headquarters. So you can see here under San Jose, I can grab a master device. So if I were to add a device under the summary tab, we can select the San Jose to be the master device that every single site will replicate to. And then once we have it here, we can also grab in USA, and we'll say here also the master device will be San Jose across the board on all the device groups. Okay, so once we have that, now you saw that once I configure that, I got the 2 tabs that were not showing before. Now they're showing. Now I can configure policies that are going to be applied across my entire organization. So if I click shared, it throws the policies across my units, all my sites. If I want to apply policies on Italy, so it only applies to Italy on my Italy firewalls, then I can do it from here. If I want to apply a policy on Milan, on this particular office, I can do it. And you see the idea. This is the structure that you want to have. You want to make sure that you have a structure where you can be very granular. So if I want to make sure that I want to make a change only in the USA, but I want to apply this change only in New York, I can then select this particular office and then add the policy. So if once I have a policy here, I can go ahead and add it. So let me go ahead and do a quick policy. And by the way, I'm going to show you real quick. So we have pre and post rules and default rules. Okay, so pre rules are usually the rules that you are allowing stuff, and they're going to be falling on top. On the top, if you see here on this particular icon, let me go ahead and zoom in a little bit so I can show you. Okay, let me scroll this down. Okay, so you see here on this icon, you see highlighted in green, and it shows the first two as the enable ones. So those are the pre-rules. They're usually the allow rules. And then post rules are actually the denies. And then default rules are the rules that come with the Palo Alto by default. So usually you want to make sure that you select the hierarchy of the policy. So if you want to make a deny rule, they usually fall on the post rules because they're going to fall below, but first allow anything on top. So you want to allow a specific traffic, but then deny everything else in the post side. Same with NAT, same with QoS. So everything that it's allowed and denied, it's added on top and bottom. So let me go ahead real quick, and we're going to make a configuration on Italy. Let's do it even more simple. Let's go ahead, and in Italy, I want to create an address. And this is an address that only belongs to Italy, so there's no point to add the address object onto any other side because it only applies to Italy. We got a subnet over there, and this subnet, it only applies to Italy, so there's no point to throw this across all my firewalls because this subnet is only relevant in Italy. And now I am going to make another change, but in this case, I'm going to add the Dubai subnet. So we're going to say Dubai, and then we're going to say this type 10.20.00.24, and this is Dubai subnet 1. The thing is, you want to make sure that it only applies to Office 1 because this is the device for Office 1, but check this out. You see what happens? Now, because I actually applied it on global, on the country, it actually applies to all my offices. So I'm going to have the same object across all my offices because I added that inside the United Arab Emirates device group. So it applies everything below it. So you want to make sure that if you're applying something that only applies to a specific office, you don't want any other office to have the same object, you then create this object on this particular device group. So let's do the object for Office 2. And you're going to see that it only applies to Office 2 and nothing else. Okay, and then we're just going to type here that IP. We'll press OK. And now we have the Dubai subnet office, but you can see it's only applying to the location of Office 2. It's not going to be global, so I'm not going to have this in the United Emirates global device group, nor I'm going to have it in any other country group. So if I go onto Office 1, there you go. I don't see that object because it only applies to this particular location. That's why you want to have this particular structure so you're granular when you're applying changes. But I want to have a policy that is applied to every single firewall. So we're going to go into share. Share, everything below it will be applied globally. So I'm going to say global internet policy. Okay, I'm going to say source, and I don't have any source. I'm just going to, for this demonstration, I'm just going to do any destination, in this case, any. You know what? We want to make sure that you have that particular destination marked in, but in this case, I'm just going to do any. So it's better off to do any. Applications, any service, and I'm going to say 445. So let's say I don't want to allow 445 to talk outside. So I'm going to say TCP, and we're going to say 445, and I'm going to press OK, and now 445. Actions, and we're going to block it. Target, and I can target to any device, or I can target to a specific device group, right? So if I want to target to a specific device group, I can apply to a specific device group. And we're going to press OK. And this applies everywhere. So everything that is below my shared group, this policy will be applied to. So everything will be applied to this particular group. Press commit. And then I can commit to Panorama. Okay, so if I commit to Panorama, I'm not actually pushing the config to the devices. I'm just saving it in Panorama, and then I can push it to the device. Or I can do both. I can say, well, push it to Panorama, but also push it to the devices. I'm going to commit to Panorama. And it's actually showing me all the changes that I made. So I made those device groups, and I also created an object, and then I'm just going to apply it to Panorama. We'll press commit, and now it's going to be applied to Panorama. Okay, and that's completed. And right now, because I am selecting my shared device group, it actually applies to every single country. So you see how powerful the Panorama is. So I can basically apply a global change across the board, or I can apply it to a specific region. So in Italy, you can see now that I have a global policy, because I apply that in the share group. So if I go to any office, I should have the same policy because this is applied globally. If I select share group, whatever I configure here applies across all my sites. So you see how powerful that is? But say we want to apply it to a specific site and not everywhere. For that, we just need to select the specific device group. In this case, I want to, into the United Arab Emirates, I want to apply a policy. We're just going to click add, and then I can create a policy and apply it to the particular site. And then we can say Dubai or UAE, and then we can say source. We're just going to keep it the same way. I'm going to say allow. And now we have the internet for the United Arab Emirates. We're going to say commit. And we should be good to go. Now I can have a specific policy applying only to the United Arab Emirates, but then everyone else will not have the same policy. So if I go back onto Italy, I should not have the policy. There you go. If I go to the USA, I don't have the policy. I only am applying the policy to the United Arab Emirates. And this is why it's very powerful. And it's something you definitely need to have if you have multiple sites. And you want to make sure that all Palo Altos are consistent. And so there you have it. Also monitor. So if you want to monitor a specific device group, I can go ahead and select that particular country, and I can see anything that's related to this particular site. If I want to go to a specific office, I don't want to see across my entire region. I just want to see a specific office. I can then select. I can be very granular with it. So you want to make sure that you create this structure, and you should be good to go to do a proper management. Same with the USA. If I want to see traffic only related to the USA, I can grab it there. And there you have it. So it's basically configuring step 1, add your devices to Panorama. Step 2, create your device group structure. So this is very important. So the hierarchy of your organization must be also detailed on this section, and then start applying policies and pushing configs. And then there you have it. So if you want to see a context, so in this case, you want to see the dashboard related to Panorama, you can then filter to specific attributes inside Panorama. So anything that's configured, and you want to make sure that you don't see a bunch of stuff, you only want to see a specific configurations, then you can filter in and out in this particular context. And then you have it. So also, if you want to do device deployment, so if you want to do upgrades, I can select specific sites where I want to do that upgrade. So I can say, well, I want to upgrade to a 110, but only in Italy as our first site. I want to make sure that it's stable before I move on onto my other sites. I can then select an upgrade per site. So it's very powerful. Again, as a summary, this is very powerful. It allows you to fully manage your entire infrastructure with a single pane of glass. So you can see it here. I am basically managing 3 countries and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 firewalls at the same time by just point and click. So there you have it, Panorama. There's a lot more to learn from it. I want to make sure that you're familiar with Panorama in case you need to deploy it, and it's very straightforward. Once you create that device group structure, you add your devices and you start configuring across the board, and you should be good to go. Well, we have reached the end of our video sections. And I want to thank you for sticking along. I know there's a lot of material involved in this understanding Palo Alto firewalls. And I want to thank you so much for sticking around. If you have any questions, make sure that you can reach out to me. I am on social media, so you can find me. My name is Rene Cardona, and I'm actually in LinkedIn, so you can shoot me an email, shoot me a message. Thank you for watching.